L to the motherfucking OG.
And welcome back to Where Heartbreak Feels Good. I am your host, Edgar Ortega, and joining me today to discuss the highly anticipated finale for Succession is Evan Harris.
Woohoo! Glad to be here. You know, weeks ago we had our whole Succession episodes 1 through 3 thoughts and
Never came back.
And never came back. They pulled us back in. Oh my gosh, dude! Like just thinking about like what happened last time we were here with episode 3, thinking like that was the craziest episode in Succession history, and then just to live through the last couple of weeks, the last 7 weeks, 6 or so, of just experiencing this final season of Succession, which I think might be its best. I don't know; it's hard. Every season of Succession is fantastic.
I think the second season is still my favorite, but
people love the second season. Second season, the one with the the Pierce arc. Is that the second season or third?
Second season is the one where basically Ken is like depressed the whole season.
Yeah,
with the government hearings and all of that.
Yeah, okay, yeah. It's like second season's peak. Yeah, second season's great, but I really loved third season. I think third season when I finally started watching it live. I think.
Yeah, me too.
I think beginning of the third season, yeah. But either way, dude, it's been an incredible ride, and these last couple episodes have just been masterful. Every week, people are like, "Is this the best episode of the season? Is this the best episode of the season and series as a whole?" And witnessing, like, I went into radio silence as soon as it hit 9:00 on Sunday, so I could experience this without any spoilers. I didn't want anybody's like notifications, reactions, like, "Oh my gosh," or anything. I just went full on. Let me just watch this in peace. And I tried not to pause it, but there were just so many moments where I'm just like, like it was crazy. I love it.
It felt like the good old days of watching Game of Thrones live. That time,
for sure.
Like vibe, like just not like the whole internet, like just like making like a date, like every Sunday. I'm gonna miss that feeling. Because I'm definitely not gonna do it with The Idol. I'll tell you.
You're not gonna watch The Idol, nah. Yeah, it's like, it's crazy. We can talk about that at the end. Just like, I was thinking about this back in January when Last of Us was airing. I'm like, what does HBO have after they do their Last of Us,
banger after banger,
Barry,
after banger,
and then Succession? Like, do they have anything even in the fall to be excited for? Like, I don't even know what they have coming up until Last of Us season 2 and Euphoria next year or 2025.
Is True Detective this fall?
Oh, that's a good call. Yeah, the new.
It might
season.
Be. Maybe.
I think that was on the trailer, but they had that little sizzle. That's a good call, True Detective. That looks like a good cast. But yeah, so Succession, dude. There's just so many thoughts coming through with this finale in terms of like character motivations and everything. But we can just say like we don't have to recap every single episode up to this point. But like, I was just so fascinated, leaving off episode 3, Logan's death. Where could this season possibly have gone? And I loved the battle that we got between Lucas, Madsen, and the siblings all throughout these last couple episodes leading into the finale. It was just so compelling just seeing each character's like duel. And me, I'm a huge like Big Brother Survivor fan. And Succession's like a huge like business version of Big Brother, where it's like people are creating these alliances, tenuous as they may be, just to fulfill their own selfish gains. And if you're useless, you can go. If you're not, then you can stay. And am I in good favor with so-and-so? Do they have my back? I'm not really sure. Who can I trust? All amongst this like political turmoil, family turmoil, emotional turmoil with Roman and stuff like that. So there were so many characters going through shit, but the world of Succession as a whole going through a lot of changes as well with the election and stuff like that. So it was incredible. I just loved the battle. Lucas became because Logan was always the main villain, if you want to say that, of this series. Like he's always like the big presence. And Alexander Skarsgård became such a fantastic, like quote unquote villain antagonist for the Roys as a whole. Shiv, she's playing double sides there. But for Logan or for Roman and Kendall, who are kind of like the two male leads here, battling against Madsen week to week was just so fucking awesome to just witness. Alexander Skarsgård is just so great, and
he's so underrated in the show because like I feel like everybody's talking about and rightfully so about Strong, about Kieran Culkin and everybody else, but like he is like the presence that he brings to the show, like I forget that he is like an actor, like he is like Alexander Skarsgård, like, and it's funny that we say that he's like the villain of the show when in reality like he's like no different than our core three characters. He's just like very open about what he is about. Like he doesn't care about like anything other than himself, and it's just very honest. And like I'm gonna tell you right now, like I don't think I dislike a single character in the show other than Lucas, but like
that final
but
scene,
the funny thing is like I don't think seeing Ken losing, I don't think seeing any of the siblings losing what they thought it was rightfully theirs, or them splitting it up, hurt as much as seeing that fucking man like celebrating in the conference room with Tom and everybody. I was like, ugh.
Yeah, what's the withdrawal policy on this? I'm like, this guy is a monster. I mean, I had absolute chills when he's talking to Tom about Shiv. It's like, man, I just want to effort, It's like, it was one of the most horrifying scenes of the entire series. And Tom's sitting there seething and just like, what is he thinking? It's wow.
It makes it worse when you get to their final shot together between Tom and Shiv just holding hands. It's just like, it's horrifying. Like, I know everybody says that Ken probably had it the worst, but like knowing what we know, what happened between Madsen and Tom, and knowing that Shiv doesn't know what happened in that conversation, it just makes it like utterly like terrifying for that character. As much as she's not a good person herself, like she's still like a human being, and just like knowing that information that she doesn't know is just
it was heartbreaking. I'm watching that, I'm like, oh, is Tom going to say anything? Internally throughout this whole thing, I'm like, I wouldn't be upset if he did, or I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, if he did, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't. Because just knowing Tom, Tom has been kind of this man. Look at his arc from episode 1 to now, but like just groomed into behaving as a person who is so self-interested. He's always been self-interested, but just throughout the course of the show, he's becoming more self-interested and more putting his emotions to his back. Really, I think season 3 really cemented that for him in terms of like, these people really do not care for me. Do I really love Shiv? Do I not? It's like, I love how honest these characters are. Like, when Shiv calls him in the finale, he's like, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen for, you and I. Because, Shiv is
even
like throwing that olive
their
bread.
conversation in the roof and the party. I think it's episode 7. I want to say maybe
that
like if you want to know what happens after the finale, like it's just that scene, like that. Extended to how many years they're gonna be together if they're together. Because it's gonna be a personal hell.
That was an explosion, right? And like that was an explosion on the rooftop, and then now I feel like it simmers, but it's gonna burst again. It's gonna burst and simmer between them all the time. They're gonna have that little blow up, but then it's gonna simmer, and then they'll be like, do I like him? Do I not like him? What's gonna happen? Is he an asshole? Is he an asshole? Like, they're gonna confirm their feelings and deny it for the rest of their lives. And it's a very up and down, tumultuous relationship they have there. And that final shot with them holding hands, just like that epitomizes their relationship to a T. People who are just so conflicted have a smidge of feelings for each other, but then also like begrudgingly have to be with each other. Not have to, but just like, desire, I guess you could say, to be with each other due to their, unfortunate circumstances, like with Tom ruling. I mean, she was so upset. Like, reactionary wise, she was so upset when she first found out that Tom, like, it's me. And I'm losing my mind. I'm just like, oh my God. And she's like, it's on, guys, it's on. I'm like, oh shoot, it's on, let's go, it's game over. But then, that's why Shiv is like one of the most fascinating characters ever. Because like that whole finale, you're like, okay, she's so against Tom. She cannot have Tom do this to her. But I think, looking back at the end results now, I think Tom, that reaction just like what it was a reaction to the news.
It was a reaction,
It was a reaction because her betrayal mostly, right?
I think once they got to Waystar, that's when she started like And when she saw like Ken like sitting on the chair, and she's like starting to actually process what the information of Tom becoming CEO actually means. And
Yeah.
just like, I think she knows deep down that her brothers are not gonna let her in all the way. As much as they say they will, they probably won't. And like, I think in that moment she's thinking like, okay, out of the two like evils, which one would be the lesser evil for me? Who can I
Mm.
maybe manipulate a little bit easier out of Ken or Tom? And I think like, even though like it's a very complicated and messy relationship that they
Oh
have,
yeah.
I think she knows deep down that she might have a little bit of agency with Tom as on the top. And not only that, like now she's pregnant. Now they're gonna have a kid together. Now it's not just about her, it's about securing the
The
future
future.
successor. And I know a lot of people like, I tweeted something else, something like, oh, like Tom is a little bit like Logan, like he played the game well and everything. And then a lot of people were saying like,
Do you want
well,
to ask you
he's
for
just like a,
that?
yeah, yeah. Well, a lot of people were like replying like, well, he's just like a CEO for hire. He's not like the owner of the company. And I'm like, and yeah, that's true. But like,
Sure.
but the thing that Madsen sees in Tom, I think, is that deep down, Tom is kind of like a suck up. Like he
He's a
will
yes
take,
man.
and he's a yes man. He will like take the pain. Like he's like a sponge. Is that what they say at the finale? Like he's like
Yeah.
a sponge that absorbs pain or whatever. Like
Yeah.
I think that's the exact kind of person that Madsen wants on the top to like puppeteering. So I
Logan
think
Mark
that
II. Is that
entire
what they said? That was a joke.
yeah, yeah,
Logan Mark II or something like that. But yeah, you're right. And then I think going back to the Shiv thing, I think yeah, she has. That's why I love this final season. It was not, they could have easily just had Shiv and Tom not talk to each other, like just full on separation throughout the last couple episodes. But they didn't. Like they had that weird kinky shit for a couple episodes where they were going back and forth, slapping each other,
yeah,
biting each other, doing that weird shit, and then it blows up. But then they continue to talk to each other, right? Like they always come back to each other. And that's the thing I was talking
yeah,
about like a couple minutes ago. It's like they always come back to each other, regardless of whether there's any kind of feelings at all. That's up to interpretation. But they always come back to each other. And now with the advent of the kid, there's always going to be an emotional connection there. And even though there's always going
yeah,
to be an emotional connection between Shiv and Kendall because they're blood related, they're siblings, there's always going to be that emotional connection as siblings. But I think, like as you said, there's always going to be just a more different relationship with her and Tom because like she doesn't have a
yeah,
kid with Kendall, right? She has a kid with Tom, and through their marriage, the divorce, like I think Tom was kind of listening when he's like, it would make things just more crazier if we had the divorce and there's a kid on the way. It would just be easier, just to lie with each other, just to be with each other, and I think that's what just happened
yeah,
begrudgingly. But yeah, I think what was said though, Shiv makes a decision, and people said like, is she making the decision for Kendall? No, not necessarily. I don't think she's making
not
it for
necessarily.
Kendall. But people could argue. I wouldn't be upset. People would argue like there's a tinge of it maybe for Kendall, but regardless, I think the show has shown us that there is love between each of the individual siblings, at least a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think also it's just like she realizes Kendall is not a great guy, regardless of the whole beautiful swim sequence. I loved that whole sequence. The whole meal
False
for
hope.
twerking, false hope. I was ready for it. I was like, what's gonna break this up? What can possibly break this up? And
I knew something bad was gonna happen because I remember I think it was either Jesse or Jeremy Strong that said earlier in the season that there was gonna be something that was gonna destroy Ken later in the show, in the season of season 4. And I was like, I just kept waiting for it after like the death episode of Logan. Like I just kept waiting for it. It's gonna be next episode, next episode, next episode, and it finally happens here in the finale and just utterly destroyed.
utterly destroyed. I mean, I'm a huge Kendall fan. It was heartbreaking to watch. Heartbreaking to watch.
He's my
But yeah,
favorite character.
easily for me too, man. Because I was full on board with the whole Kendall becomes Logan but loses everything. I love that. I love that
Yeah.
trope. It's like the character gets all he wanted but then loses everything, and then usually for that trope though, like when a character gets everything he wants but loses everything in the process, like his family and emotional connections. Usually there's a separate season afterwards to see like
Yeah.
him change his mind. That doesn't happen with Kendall, of course, but like it would have been fascinating to see Kendall like lose his family, lose
The
everything.
Godfather finale, basically.
The Godfather finale, exactly. It's like, did you really get everything you wanted? You have your business, but you lost your family. But they did the whole nuclear option. They gave him nothing.
They gave him
They
nothing.
gave him
Yeah.
nothing. That was so heartbreaking. It's like just
to
his
me,
reaction, just like
about
to kill his sibling. It was gnarly.
I know a lot of people were like, "Oh, like he's like finally unleashing the monster within him," but like, I don't. I mean, I'm not justifying what he did to Roman twice in the episode with the stitches, and then after with the whole.
We gotta talk about that.
Like,
we gotta talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah. But like, I don't. I mean, what Roman said is very shitty about his kids, so I don't fully blame him for reacting the way that he did with Roman.
What was that about? Can we talk about that? Roman said like you're not his son or something like that. What was that about?
I think what they meant, that we're talking about like who was gonna be the successor after them, and Roman was talking about, well, everybody knows it's gonna be like whoever Shiv's kids are, because like they're gonna be like pure bloodline or whatever, and because your kids are like fake or whatever. I don't think they ever talk about. I don't think they ever talked about if his kids are adopted or if it's like someone.
Oh, like you mean
some Kendall other guy with Rava? Yeah,
Kendall and Rava's kid. I thought he was talking about Kendall himself.
No, I think he was talking about his kids, about Kendall's kids.
Got it.
That's when he was like, "What the fuck are you talking about, dude?" Like,
and
that's why
I was confused. I was like, "Is Kendall not related to the sibling?" I was like, "Wait, what the hell?" But then okay.
Yeah,
that makes more sense. Okay. But yeah.
And basically, he was saying like
that was messed up.
Yeah, he was basically saying like, well, everybody knows that your kids are not gonna be like the future of the company, because even Dad said that they were not real. So that's why that entire thing happened.
Oof. Yeah. And then he started pushing Shiv, and then Roman's like, "She's pregnant, dude." I was just like, It was so messy. Then everybody just watching it. Frank and Carl and the other.
It's a very human reaction.
Oh,
like, I'm not justifying it, but like, no. I get it. Like, I get why you react.
Which is the beauty of every single decision in this fucking show. The writing has just it's unprecedented. The writing is so good. I was watching the behind the scenes, whatever they do inside Succession.
Yeah.
And what's the writer's name? Mark. Jesse Armstrong. Mark's the director.
Or the director, Mark something.
Yeah, Mark MacLeod or whatever. But yeah, Jesse, he's like, I don't think I'll ever write anything as good as this. I'm like, probably not.
Probably not.
Did he pitch here?
Yeah.
Like, how does it feel as a writer to be like
the same way?
How does it feel as a writer to just be like, put pen to paper, drop everything, you just finished Succession. What do you do next? How do you top yourself? Do you want to top yourself? Like, what do you do? I mean, that Jesse, man, just ridiculous.
I would just retire after.
Yeah, right? Just retire. Just be like, I'm good. I created masterpiece, timeless television. People can watch this show in 2059 and be like, oh, this is so relatable. Like, this is something that would always be timeless.
I think even the team behind the show has always like compared it to like, this is the closest thing that we'll have to like modern Shakespeare, and it really does feel like that. Like the whole like, because the thing about Shakespeare is that yes, he writes tragedies, but like the way that he writes them, they're very like absurd. Like Romeo and Juliet, like it's an absurd story. Yes, it's a tragedy, but it's really absurd to the point of almost being funny, and like that's Succession just like as a whole as well.
Mm-hmm. It's absurd. Yeah, the world in and of itself. I say this about Barry as well. Like the world of Barry, the world of Succession, they are a little bit absurd in senses, but like there's a sense of realism as well to it. That makes it so like relatable, so tangible, so fascinating to watch. But yeah, I want to talk about that. There's the iconic blow when Kendall was just like lashing out, it's just pleading for them, but also that Kendall and Roman scene with the hug. I rewatched it live because I'm watching this live. I couldn't go on to the next scene. I was like, let me rewatch that and piece together what the hell is happening before I move on to the next scene. Because I'm just watching this. I'm like, is Kendall doing this? Does Roman want this? And then there's been a couple articles, but I haven't read anything about it from like the director's point of view. But what did you think? Did you read anything about this?
I think the thing that I took away from that is that there was like a mutual understanding that the only way that Roman can like fully like get away from whatever pain he's feeling is like instantly being like physically hurt. And the thing that triggers this entire scene is him seeing like Jerry like on the other side of the room, and it's not even like a clear look at Gary. Is she's like, you can see like through the glass door, and it's like barely visible, but you can clearly still see that it's her.
Great direction.
And
He starts
and it
freaking
just
out.
sends, yeah, he starts freaking out, and that in that moment, it's almost like there's like a mutual like brotherly understanding that this guy, like as fucked up as it sounds, like
He can't
this
be
guy
here.
he can be here, and the only way that he's gonna be able to be like keep going is if he's like physically hurt, because that's what Logan used to do. And I think Ken knows that. Even I don't know if he likes that he did what he had to do in that moment. But yeah, that was my read of the scene.
Okay. Yeah, because it feels like, as we will always say with the rest of these episodes, like Kendall has been becoming Logan piece by piece by piece leading into this finale. And yeah, I think he embodies Logan in that scene by like hugging Roman. And when you talk about pain, you're talking about like that internal pain, right? That Roman's feeling.
Internal pain, even like panic,
mm-hmm.
stress, whatever. Like because he knows what Gary would be able to do if she wanted to actually cause some shit, especially with him.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like he starts panicking. I think, yeah, and it was so fascinating because he talks about like his stitches. He talks about like, oh, is it covered up now? It's like, but I think he's trying to like similar to the whole funeral sequence. Roman's trying to cover up the fact that he can't do it. Like he says, like, oh, like I don't need to be here. I'm just gonna call in an email. I can't be here. Like he's kind of like scared of the business angle. He's scared of the like being in a position of. It's so fascinating. Is he scared of being in a position of power? Is he scared of like what he just being in that room, just being in that presence of Jerry, of other people, of other like his siblings, even in terms of like that power structure, and Kendall unbuckling them stitches, giving him that hug, saying it's like it's okay. I think what was the scene? What was the line? He said like it couldn't have been you or something like that. It can't be you. It couldn't have been you or something like that. Where he's admitting to Roman, Kendall is, that like you were never for this, but please support me in a way, right? Like it's like,
and he's right. Like Roman never wanted it. He just like went for it because that's the thing that he was supposed to do.
The thing he was supposed to do, the thing that like as a father, Logan kind of pushed his kids to be that competitive, selfish spirit. And of course, it was egged on by Logan's back and forth with Roman, in terms of like, I love you, son, but do this for me. I love you, son, but do this for me. And that we all saw in episode 3, where he's like, fire Jerry. I love you, but fire Jerry. It's like he doesn't understand who Roman is, even though Logan thinks he does. Maybe he understands Roman all too well. I don't know, but either way, yeah, that final scene with this Kendall just hugging Roman, unbuckling those stitches, the blood just like piercing out. It was terrifying. And yeah, I think again, it just symbolizes Kendall affirming to Roman that, hey, like he says, I'm the one that can get my hands dirty. I'm the one who can put blood in my hands, as he's literally making Roman bleed. Like this is him verbally, physically doing what he set out to do in terms of like, I can get blood on my hands. This is the job for me. Unfortunately, it's not for you. Let me give you that physical pain that, again, like you said, that Roman's used to, and then sit down with me, say your nay in support of me, and let's keep it together. And yeah, like you said, going all the way back to the Shiv thing, I think Kendall, fascinatingly enough, is just becoming Logan piece by piece, getting Colin as the bodyguard, losing his family and his kids, his wife and his kids. Embodying Logan through that speech. Remember, like that heartbreaking,
the funeral.
The heartbreaking, yet courageous. Like there's so many emotions surrounding that speech. Where season 3 and 2, Kendall was dead inside, or mostly 2. He was dead inside. 3 is like him going against. Towards the end of 3, he was broken again. But where Kendall's telling Logan, like, I don't want to be you, like it would be sickening to be like you. Like, I don't want to be like you, like, at all. and then for him to like say like, oh, I want it in me, like, you know, that the thing that's been going around everywhere. It's like that parallel,
Yeah.
that delicious parallel, or it's so sickening. Or he's just like, I want to embody it. I like there's a lot of things Logan did that was bad, but I hope it's in me, and I'm just wow.
I think what makes it even more tragic for his character as a whole is it's that line. It's such a ridiculous line. It is funny in the moment but when you actually get the chance to process what it means, like it's so damn sad. Like that line of him saying like, "Oh, he promised the company to me when I was 7 years old." And when he says it, like it's funny, like because it's just happening in the middle of all this chaos, and you're like, "What the fuck is this argument?" But
like what the hell, Kevin? Like 7 it doesn't
yeah,
mean
but
shit,
like
then,
but then you like stop and think about it, and then you quickly realize why this character has been doing what he's been doing for 4 seasons is because like he thinks this is like his destiny. He thinks this is the only thing he would be good at, and now he doesn't have it.
this is birthright, yeah, and like it's amongst, like you said, this crazy back and forth sibling squabble where he's like, they're coming up with petty reasons for why he deserves it, and he's like, you know, I promised me when I was 7, and yeah, you laugh it off at first.
This boy,
yeah, what do you say? Like, I'm the eldest boy.
yeah.
Oh God, yeah. See, I'm the eldest boy. It's like this is an actual line coming out of him right now. And you're just like, ah, man. It's a tragic fall from grace for Kendall, where he thinks he was one vote from having everything he ever wanted, and now he's nothing.
Here's what I thought it was gonna happen at the ending of the show. I was almost convinced this was gonna happen because of the funeral episode. I think it was last week's episode. You know how he like starts giving the speech and he starts talking about the money and how everybody like wishes, whether they're poor or rich, they wish they could be like touch a little bit of what Logan was and his success. And the camera kind of like pans to see the reaction of Madsen and Mencken, and both of them have like this like smile on their faces, but not like laughing at him, but almost smiling with him, almost like in agreement, like, yeah, we are trying to be like this man, we are trying to pursue that kind of success. And for me, for the past week, I've almost convinced myself for a minute that what I thought it was going to happen is that Madsen was gonna recognize that in Kendall and maybe name him, like still buying the company, still the acquisition happening, but maybe giving him a shot to be the American CEO. That's what for a second. And I mean, technically, that's what happened, but not with Ken. It just happened with Tom.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Like that's almost what I thought it was gonna happen at the finale of the show.
That could have happened, but as we see, Lucas is such a similar to the Romans, or the Roys. He's such a selfish, self-interested character. He literally cares about nobody. Just the pieces that we learned about his character through like his relationship with Ebba, which was messed up. His relationship,
and she's still there.
She's still there, yeah. His relationship with Shiv, which was messed up ultimately in the finale. And this is a selfish character. Him and Kendall are just like, not polar opposites, right? But they're rivals in a sense. Like Kendall can see a little bit of himself, and you could argue Kendall can see a little bit of himself in Madsen vis-a-vis in Kendall as well. And like Kendall and Madsen, these are two guys that just never could get along. Which is why I love having that whole retreat episode. Just seeing Kendall and Madsen, the retreat episode, the party episode, just seeing those two ideologies clash because they are so like each other. They want that power for themselves. They want that power, you know. For Lucas, it comes off of just like, you know, basically getting lucky, and just like, you know, skyrocketing off of his own, you know, success, if you can even call it that. He gets lucky, as we find out. Like he just got lucky with his like entrepreneurship and everything like that. But Kendall, you know, is different. This is a guy that was old money, got it from birthright, and just felt like it was deserved to him. So these two ideological clashes just happening constantly throughout this final season. I loved it. And yeah, Logan, I mean, Madsen, through that speech, you could tell like he was definitely like, yeah, I had a piece of me in him. But he's also kind of the guy who's like just playing off of Logan's death either way. Like he gave zero shit about like Logan's death. He just like, because again, it felt like it was just another domino that was going to fall in his favor.
Yeah, I mean, Roman says it himself in that episode 5, I want to say, I think so. When they're like, he finally goes off on Madsen, and he's like, "Oh, you killed our dad. You couldn't wait just one day, just 1 week. You couldn't wait. You fucking killed our dad, or whatever." Like that entire scene is great.
So fantastic because Lucas doesn't care. He does not care about Logan, but he is kind of like Logan. But like all these people are like, where they just don't care about people besides themselves and what their next goal and visions are. And anybody who gets in their way is just like a nuisance to them, which again goes back to why he thinks Tom is right. Like Tom never got in his way. The Roys, they did. Even Shiv, who was fighting with him, the second she starts like giving him orders about like how to handle the whole India disaster, how to handle the numbers, how to do this. He liked working with her, but it turns out it was mostly just from a sexual, physical attraction point of view. And the second she started to have any kind of like intellectual oversight over him, he was like, she's out. She's got to go. Yeah. He wanted that yes man in Tom. He wanted that people like Tom. He wanted people weaker than him, which is why I think he views Ebba as somebody weaker than him. And Ebba's like, he wants people weaker than him to stay under him. As manipulative, as awful as may be, that's what he is. And there's a certain line from Lucas where he's just like, "Don't mess with me, like don't F with my numbers, don't do like just some certain way that he can get dark, but also he can get like really goofy as well." So Lucas was such a fascinating villain here.
I also wanted to touch a little bit on episode 8, the election episode.
Such a great
PTSD episode for everybody in the real world.
Big time. 2016.
2016, baby. Man, what a time.
Don't bring me back. Great year for movies, but don't bring me back to that day. That was a bad day.
But anyway, like just thinking about that episode with context of the finale with episode 10 and the decision that Shiv makes and what Ken eventually does in the finale, like I really started like thinking about like, man, like Kendall, you really messed up by picking Mencken as your guy, because like at the end of the day, the exact same thing ended up happening that Shiv wanted, but like you just put a crown on the devil essentially. And like I also think it's very fascinating that
what do you mean by that same thing happened that Shiv wanted in terms of like Tom getting in position, or?
in terms of the deal still going through, because that's what was going to happen if the other guy won anyway, right? That's at least that was the implication with Shiv.
Like I think she said the other president, like the Democratic president, wouldn't have probably let the deal go through. Like he was kind of like iffy on it, but like also like there's a point of view where the Democratic president also lets the deal go through, given like all the deals that people had behind the scenes. But yeah, you just wanted Mencken because Mencken was definitely in their ears with Roman and Kendall and stuff like that.
At least that's what they thought. But like I also find it like fascinating because that's like at least in the second half of the season, that's the first like like breakthrough between Shiv and Ken by picking Mencken, because that's the thing that she really didn't want to happen, and not because of her agency, but just in general for democracy, as they were arguing in that episode. So like what I've been thinking is like, would she have done what she did by letting Tom take the seat if Ken would have sided with her, at least on that first that first decision of the presidential election?
Great question, because that changes everything in a sense. Like, because Kendall and Shiv had that emotional conversation prior to that about like, am I a bad person? It's like,
and what makes it worse and what makes it worse is that you can tell that Ken knows that she's right, because he, unlike Roman, he kind of does sort of care about like what's going on in the country and with the information and with democracy and all of that.
Especially given his family's daughter and the circumstances there.
Like he actually cares, but in that last minute of him realizing that she's been like talking behind his back, like it almost feels like the decision that he makes is not out of like his own interest. It's almost to get back to Shiv, and that's ultimately, I feel like that's what fucks him in the end.
That's a great point. Because and these kids, like, it all goes back to Logan, right? They're not serious people. They're not serious people because they're very reactionary. You're right. Like, Kendall was betrayed by Shiv, and instead of thinking like, why did she betray me? What's in it for her? Actually, he does think about what's in it for her. She gets a lot out of it. But still, it's just like, if he lets her, going back, like, the fact that he was betrayed, he instantly goes to like, okay, it can't be Shiv, and to F Shiv over, then I'm definitely going to have to let Mencken go through. That's going to be like the most hurtful thing to Shiv, and Shiv just did the most hurtful thing to me. That's what I got to do.
Yeah.
And I think going back all the way to finale, that's what Shiv does. It's like she feels betrayed by Kendall, just in terms of like envisioning Kendall in this seat of power. And then she automatically, it's a reaction. She's like, she gets asked a question, it's an automatic gut reaction where she's like, she thinks back about it. I think she literally thinks about everything that happened over season 4 and everything. And she's just like, he betrayed me with the election. He killed a kid.
Lied about it.
And lied about
or
it.
Tried to lie about it. I don't know what that was about.
That was crazy, Kendall.
Super
That was
panicking.
crazy. Maybe it was a kid. Maybe you see. Man, that was so uncomfortable. That was so hard. What I love about Barry and Succession is that they both, that season 1 finale through line never disappears for Barry and Kendall there. Where it's like, the things he did in the past, they cannot be forgotten, and it never was forgotten. I love that the writers like suck it, because that could have easily just been a one-off thing, like him killing a kid, but it never was. That was a major through line that persisted for season 2, season 3, and then definitely in season 4. Like, that decision did him in. But yeah, you're right. I think the whole election night for Shiv, because that was the night that she was going back and forth multiple times. She's gaining that emotional connection with her brother, but then losing it with the betrayal, but then gaining with Matsson, but then kind of losing it. Because that was the same night that she was really on top of Matsson too, being like, we got to do this, and this. And then she felt so like proud of what she's doing with Matsson, even though Matsson could end up betraying her. So it was a lot. But yeah, I think that election night really cemented for Shiv that Kendall was a character that was going to be so not for her ultimately, regardless of the emotional connection. Because again, they have that emotional connection in the conference room, but then that betrayal, I think for Shiv, it kind of cemented that, like, regardless of certain breakthroughs we're going to have emotionally in our relationship, Kendall is not the guy that's going to be fit. If he's able to make those kind of like big, groundbreaking presidential calls based off of just a betrayal. And she admitted that towards the end. When she got caught, she admitted that, like, yes, but like, regardless, Kendall, you're making a bad decision, regardless of my betrayal to you. And Kendall can see through that.
Also, like, thinking back on her last line of that episode, of the presidential episode, is when Roman says like, nothing happens, and her just saying like, sometimes things do happen, and they did.
Sometimes things do happen. Yeah, you get your ass kicked at the last second. And man, yeah, that election episode was just so perfect in terms of like building up tension through like the presidential election between Democracy and Matsson, and the whole organization of it. Do we call this state? Do we not? Even into the finale, we still don't know if like Matsson's gonna truly be president or not. It's like, it's still up in the air. If there was an extra season, you never know. Like, the whole Wisconsin thing could have been like, Matsson's not president anymore. What kind of difficulties is that going to lie? Like, that's all, future. Yeah, Macon. That's all in the future. You never know what might happen. But yeah, the whole presidential thing was just so freaking good, because Kendall, because that was the episode that was like just another building block in terms of Kendall's relationship with his family. And I want to talk about that for a second, because that was such a pivotal part. I'm so glad the writers chose to let Rava and the kids have that impact on Kendall leading into the finale, leading into this final season, but just showing us that outside of Kendall's bid for power post Logan's death, outside of his like thinking he's groomed for this, him fighting his siblings, him fighting Matsson, there's still that backdrop with Rava and his family that he's going to have to constantly deal with. And the fact that the writers made it so that Rava was so my brother's walking, scared the hell out of me. But the fact that Rava was such a big factor on Kendall, and they made it so that it parallels Logan's connection with his family all the way in the final season. In that final season, Logan was kind of like going back and forth with like his family, calling them not serious people, even though he kind of loved them. So it was kind of difficult for Kendall to be in that same position where he's kind of like losing his position with his family, even though he still says he loves them. It's like, oh man, in that final shot, you can really envision Kendall being very similar to Logan, where he's without his family. It was crazy. It was crazy to watch.
Yeah, and it's even like better with it's even better knowing the fact that now he's gonna be followed by quite literally the physical shadow of his dad, like his bodyguard, like just following him around.
Colin, right? That was his bodyguard. Yeah. Man, yeah, you're right. It's like it's so tragic. Kendall, as a character, was somebody who so much wanted to succeed his father. He wanted to be father's boy in season 1. He wanted to be that kid. He was groomed since he was 7, right? He just episode 1, scene 1, you see him jamming in the car, thinking he's gonna be the big shot. And just seeing his up and down relationship has been riveting throughout this final season of him just going back and forth with his father, him killing a kid, him being on drugs. Is he even worth it? Him just really willing to really diminish his own relationship with his kids and his family in this bid for power, but then ultimately come up with nothing. Like everything he strived for in terms of trying to, be the person that he thought he should be is all gone. And it was just, such a fascinating, we'll never see a character arc like this on TV, I think.
Yeah.
It was just so iconic, so unique.
Yeah, real quick, talking back about like why things happen the way that they happen at the end. I think it's really a really cool detail. I don't think that they don't mention it on the show, but I think Alexander Skarsgård said somewhere in an interview after the episode aired that I think for Mattson, the moment that he realized that Tom was a good pick is when he found out. I think he was like eavesdropping on Greg and Shiv at the funeral.
Yeah.
That Tom was at work, that he didn't come to the funeral because he was working.
Oh, I saw that. Yes.
Yeah, and the fact that that he was willing to like abandon like his family and like Connor's wedding to go and do the deal with
business.
Logan. Yeah, he's like a businessman. And then you think about like back in the pilot to season 1, Kendall abandoning the deal that he's trying to crack back in season 1. I forgot what deal it was, but he live in the room for Logan's birthday party, and Logan being like, "What the hell are you doing here? Why are you here? You're not supposed to be." Like, it was like a test.
Yeah,
like it's all connected, baby. It's all like
shit. I remember that scene in season 1. Yeah, Kendall's like, "It's your birthday," and oh my god, that brings up again the whole Logan birthday with this one, where none of his kids showed up to his birthday in season 4, and then he starts feeling like shit because he's all alone, and people are like, "Wow, Logan actually he's contemplating his own legacy. He had no kids showed up to his birthday, his own mortality." Yeah, exactly. And then in season 1, he's like, "Why are you even here?" And paralleling that for Logan's sake is just so interesting for Logan's arc. But the fact that Mattson kind of like looked at Tom to be like, "Oh, it's like, oh, you're a businessman." Like that's so fascinating. Just those small little details that we kind of noticed. Like in the final episodes, Tom was constantly like at the job, at work, like The
All
great
season
part.
4, that's what he was doing.
That's all he was doing, and it's so interesting because looking at Tom's whole history, he's always like the patsy, right? He was always a patsy.
Yeah.
You know, I
He's the
just
joke
rewatched.
of the congressional hearings, like
Yeah.
while Ken is like the badass in that scenario, but
Yeah, Kendall was like the badass, and then Tom was kind of like, "Do I know Greg? Who is Greg again?" And then Carl like, "Shiv, how's it feel dating an idiot?" And Tom, that whole man, season 2, great stuff. But then like, the whole boat thing. Remember, they're all like, "Who should take the fall?" And then even Shiv says like, "Oh yeah, Tom would be a good fit." Everybody's like dunking on Tom. It was crazy. But then, yeah, Tom this season was always like all business. Like after Logan's death, and you can kind of like compartmentalize. Maybe it was because of Logan's death, of course, that he was always so busy, and he was always just trying to like fulfill that role that was set up for him at the end of season 3, just to fulfill that role of being CEO, just being head of ATN. Just trying to do his job there. But yeah, Mattson took note of it, which is so fascinating. Like people might come across as like idiots, like Mattson or whatever. Like no, they're always thinking. They're always thinking. Selfishly, they are, but they are always thinking. So yeah, that was a good. That's a good detail. Like there's always like these small little details in this final season that people would just go unnoticed.
yeah.
But yeah, also I want to talk about like Roman's whole journey here in terms of like man, it was so unexpected because when we left episode 3, we're like Roman, Kendall, and Shiv are just completely broken without Logan.
And Roman is the one like in charge.
Yeah. Roman's like the one in charge there, but then it was all a front because like Roman's full on like with the whole retreat. Like Roman's all like, we can't let the deal go through. Like he's yelling at Lucas like, Dad would have hated you, like you killed my dad, all that kind of stuff. And then we see like the slow rise, right? Like I think it was the episode before the election, or just Roman's just like firing everybody. Jerry, you're fired. So and so in LA, you're fired. Like he's trying to fulfill that role. He's trying to fulfill what he thinks his father was going to do. And I love that Jerry calls him out on it in that episode, saying like, "You're trying to be your father, but you're just a boy. Like you're just a little boy." That kind of like tips the edge over for Roman there because she was just speaking truths. She was hitting him with the truths, and Roman couldn't take it. That's why he kind of like pseudo fired her in that moment. Which again, I love the whole Roman Kendall dynamic in this season because when Roman goes over to Kendall in that episode, it's like I might have just fired Jerry. And Kendall's like, okay, man, okay. It's like just trying to back up his little brother. It was just like good. He's like, okay, yeah, you want to fire anybody else too? That episode is great.
Yeah,
because like Roman and Kendall both trying to embody Logan in their own unique individual ways, but then, oh my gosh! And I remember watching the teaser for the funeral episode, being like, oh man, Roman's really turning into a villain. Like, what's gonna be his, what's gonna be his emotional break?
And then Jesse immediately humanizes him.
Immediately. Oh no, yeah, that was following like the whole election, or the election was peak evil Roman, dude. Evil Roman. This was like, we've seen Roman be a dick. We've seen him be a dick all the time. But that election episode is sickening. It was sickening to watch as Roman is just basically like destroys everybody. Like he's going after Shiv hard in that episode. He gives zero fucks about humanity, about the election, whatever. He's just going back and forth. He's convincing his own brother in Connor to just go against his own wishes. Hey, back out of the election. Help me out.
And he's not even doing it because he thinks it's a good idea. He's just doing it because he thinks he's right.
Exactly, because he thinks he's right, and that's what always comes down to Roman, because he thinks he's right. Even though, does Roman even know right from wrong? Does he even care? But Roman does get the best line in the finale. I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, Roman's just peak evil, and people were just hating on Roman. Like it was so disgusting to watch. Like this,
I was hating on him too.
Everybody was, dude, because I was like that whole argument between him and Shiv, just him being like, shut the fuck up, and him just cracking jokes while this Mencken guy becomes president, just because they're best friends with him, and then at the end of the episode, it's like, oh, look who's calling, president. It's like he's so confident, and then the teaser trailer for the finale, where it's like, oh, it's Roman. I'm gonna be seeing these lines from my father. What would Logan do?
I am the man.
I am the man. I am the man. And then, oh my god, like I kept on pausing it during that funeral episode. I just kept on pausing it because it was so hard to watch. This is up there with L to the OG in terms of like I can't physically watch this. Just Roman breaking down before our very eyes, just crumbling. It was heartbreaking. Just immediately.
It's also
like
that
what?
story of Logan and his sister Rose. Like I think that's the thing that finally cracked him. Like him realizing that Logan was just as much of a victim as he was like an abuser, especially when he was younger, like around Roman's age. I think that's part of why like it wasn't just the fact that he's been like neglecting himself from grieving, as he tells Frank like, oh, I pre-grieve, even though clearly you didn't. But like all of those emotions just I'm finally coming down. It's just
yeah, it was
incredible.
painful because again, it went from villain to zero real quick. And again, that power shift is so important because in the same episode, Kendall was going, wearing the shades.
He starts down. Yeah.
He starts down. He's wearing those shades. His family literally just left the city because on the day of his father's funeral, because of what he did with Mencken. Like you said,
and then Jess tries to abandon him too.
Oh, you're right. Oh, Queen Jess. Forgot about Jess. I love Jess. Hopefully she's doing okay.
Hopefully she stays with him now. She'll probably abandon him too after.
Yeah, she's probably long gone, but yeah, he's gonna need somebody. Hopefully Jess can come through for Kendall. I don't know. Kendall's not doing so good. He needs somebody more than Colin. But he starts at the bottom. Like Jess is leaving him, his family leaving him, which again goes into the fact that I thought like, oh, he's gonna rise, he's gonna get everything he wanted, but he's gonna have no Jess, no Rava, no kids. But no, he gets zero. But yeah, it was just so interesting to watch. And then Kendall just, again, we talked about that already, but to embody that speech, just like say the exact opposite of what his true intentions were just last year or a season ago. With the
months ago, I think.
Months ago, yeah, with just that whole one of the best scenes in TV history, just that human heartbreaking scene between Logan and Kendall on the terrace, just like, I don't want to be you. To now, where he's like, I want to become Logan. I wish he was in me. Just that switch up leading into that whole funeral episode was just so good. And then on Shiv's part, dude, when Shiv asked Carl and Frank, like, was my dad a good guy? It's like she's thinking about these kind of things already. And that was an interesting conversation where the two guys, Carl and Frank, are kind of like, well, what you see is what you got. It's just such a fascinating thing on Shiv's part there. She's like always thinking about like, Logan in this position and everything like that. It was fascinating to watch.
I think also like going back to Roman a little bit, like the second that he breaks down in public, I think the most painful thing is that everybody turns against him real quick. Even his BFF, the president, Mencken, like he's like almost disgusted of him. And like even Kendall, like towards the end of the episode before he goes out into the process, like, he's like, you fucked it. Like it'll be fine, but you fucked it. It's like and again it's going
Kendall?
Yeah, and it's also going back to the whole thing about like this guy cannot like properly like process stuff. This guy cannot properly grieve or anything. He needs to be he needs to be physically like hurt, and that's why he runs out to the process after the fact that Ken finally gives like the final blow. It's just
that was interesting because like you said, is it because Roman, he needs that physical pain, he needs like people to hit him? Is that what you're saying? In that sequence, it's so fascinating for Roman. Like he's so used to that pain, both physically and verbally. Remember he was like kind of jacking off to Jerry, saying bad things to him. Remember that one time they were on the phone? And he was like, say mean things to me, Jerry. And Jerry's like, what the hell? Like that's Roman for you in a sickening, weird, fetish-like kind of way. He kind of likes that. He likes that pain.
Yeah, even when Logan hits him and Kendall tries to defend him, like Roman is like, "I'll be fine. I'll just buy another tooth or whatever." Like,
Like he masked it with the joke, but it's like, oh man, it's like this is not good. Um, so yeah, man, yeah, this has been incredible. And then I think Roman does get, like I mentioned, my favorite line at the end, where he's like, "This means nothing. We are
we're all
nothing.
you're bullshit. I'm bullshit. She's
We're
bullshit. We're all
bullshit.
bullshit.
We're all bullshit." And I'm just sitting there, I'm laughing, but I'm also just like, I'm still in a state of shock.
Yeah.
um, it's just, but then it's kind of like if Succession is called one thing, it could just be called "We're all bullshit," because it's kind of what they all are. At least in Roman's eyes, for sure. Because Kendall and Shiv have that that they feel like they have that right to them a lot of the time. But for Roman, like he said, did it even matter most of the time for Roman? Was he just part of the
Probably
game
not.
because of his father's push and pull? I think that was his main connection was like his Logan's push and pull. And without Logan, as we saw, he was just riding high off of just like what he think he should be doing until the eventual downfall, given what happened with Logan's death, and him grieving over that. He was never the right guy for it. And again, I love the final shot with Roman, where he's just like, it's a normal Tuesday. Let me go back to a bar and just drink, and let me just
His
get
arc
back
ends
to
where
normal.
it began, just being a playboy,
Just being a what?
billionaire playboy.
Yeah, being a billionaire playboy. Hey, what happened after this, dude? Like, they still have all the money, right?
That's the thing. Like,
What happened after? Are
are
they
they
broke?
because aren't they supposed to like get together and get their money together to buy the Pierce company?
That's gone.
Because that's
That's
gone.
gone.
That's fucking. I mean, I don't think it ever was official. It was more like a handshake kind of deal, but
It's like,
still, like
hey, yeah,
that.
this is what we're gonna do to spite Logan. Yeah, and then Logan dies, and they completely forget about everything.
But yeah, that definitely is not gonna happen after the breakout between the three.
No, man.
I think for me, like just reflecting on this story and these characters and how it ends, like at the end of the day, out of all the siblings, of the four siblings, Connor is definitely the winner because he's just minding his
Oh,
own business with his pretty wife.
yeah. I don't want to leave this podcast without talking about Connor, because Connor,
Yeah.
the forgotten sibling, right?
We almost forgot about him too.
We almost forgot about him too. Because I think Connor is an underrated character, of course. People mostly talk about the three main siblings for good measure, right? They're the leads. He's a
They're
supporting
the
actor.
trio, yeah.
They're the trio. But Connor, again, kudos to the god, Jesse Armstrong. Connor had some great stuff in this final season. And early on, they set Connor up and finished his arc up early on, honestly, with some heartbreaking but beautiful lines in the first couple episodes where he's just like, with the whole wedding, Connor's wedding, the fact that Connor's wedding is titled Connor's Wedding, the day that Logan dies, and it's all about Logan, not about him, says a lot about the character.
Yeah.
And the fact that he kind of says what his whole arc and whole state of life is, in the sense that like, I love you all. He loves his family, but he has learned to compartmentalize that love and just like admit that he loves his family, but that they might not love him, and that's okay. He chooses to focus on the love of the people that do respect him, and that's Willa.
The Connor heads.
The Connor heads, exactly. The Connor heads and Willa, right? Like he chose Willa, and I love that one line early on where he's just like, do you really love me for me or for the money? And then I think we talked about it in our last podcast actually, where she's just
she's like, the money is good, but
the money's good, but then there is a lot of smidge that cares about Connor. And I think he takes that, regardless of how much small it is, of how much love she actually does have for him. She is going to be there for him, which is a lot more to say than the rest of his siblings. And I think that carries him through from the rest of the season onward as we get to the finale. It's just like, he's going to stick with Willa from here on out. And throughout all the different scenes, like the party episode, he's with Willa. Roman starts going off on Willa. And he's like, okay, we're out of here, dude. F off. I'm going to stick with Willa here. I admire Connor so much.
Yeah, and like again, like he's the true winner of this show because like even between all the drama between between the trio, like Connor's probably the only one who's gonna like keep in touch with all three of them. Like he's going, even
Great
though
point.
they might not be the one, they might not see like each other like in the same room. Like he's still like the big brother. I think he's the big brother. Um, he's still gonna keep in touch, and I mean, he won. He got the girl. He has his millions. He got the house. Didn't he get a job at somewhere in another country or something?
Somalia. That's a country, right? Somalia. I think
Yeah, something
Slovenia.
like that.
One of those Eastern European countries. I think he took that deal from Mencken and got that country. Oh, speaking of that, was that a weird look? So they're at the house, they're selling shit, and then Connor's like talking about like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be away, Willa's gonna be here. But then they said like, if this election doesn't go through, that like Connor might have to stay here. Then Willa kind of like looks down. Did you catch that? Like Willa, for me, at least from my perspective, it's like there was a hint that Connor, like his whole Slovenia plan, might not go through. Something along those lines. It's very quick, and that he might just stay with Willa here in Logan's house. And Willa was getting used to just like renovating it, making it her own, whatever. And she'll continue to do that. But like, I think she was excited to be separating. Didn't they say in the finale like they were going to do that? They're going to try the long distance thing, right? Because like he's going to be in Slovenia, she was going to stay here. They're like, oh,
I think
long distance, that's cute. But then they said it might not happen. And Willa's like, wait, what? Like, I think she was excited at the prospect of being away from Connor.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think she might be excited to be alone, but at the same time, I don't think it ultimately matters because I think she has like such a grasp on Connor that ultimately, even if he stays, like it's not gonna be like a big deal.
It's not gonna be hell for her, not at all. But that was just a weird look where she's like, wait a second, hey, what? Like, it might not work out. What's gonna happen? But yeah, in the end, Willa does get a good deal. She gets the house. And yeah, I just admire Connor so much. I just want to say that on this podcast. I admire Connor's, again, I keep bringing up this word, but it's a heartbreaking tenacity, where it's just like he
and honesty.
Yeah, the heartbreaking tenacity and honesty, where a lot of the other kids couldn't be honest with themselves, especially Roman, especially Kendall, especially Shiv. They couldn't be honest with themselves, with their true desires. But Connor, as early as like the first couple episodes of this season, admits like, I love you guys. You guys might not love or care about me, but I got Willa, and that's it for me. Like I'm cool.
Yeah.
And then you kind of see throughout the connection throughout him and his father, Logan. That's his entire series, right? Where Connor's always been there for his family, like you said.
Yeah, and I also wanted to point this out, but going back to the whole like, I think he's gonna be the only one who's gonna keep in touch with everyone, because like that last good moment between the siblings, on them watching the tape with Logan and everybody, the crew, and Connor is there with Willa, I think. And you can just see like Logan was such a tough motherfucker, but like he still kind of had like that lovely like old grandpa kind of vibe to the family.
Totally.
And I think this is probably the only moment in the entire series where you can actually see that, and it's particularly like interesting that he allows himself to be that way when the three youngest children are not present. I don't know if it's because like he's not like trying to show them love so they can be quote unquote ready, but like I find it incredibly fascinating that he is allowing himself to be just a normal old man with his friends and family when the kids are not around.
When the kids are not around, dude, I didn't even piece that together. But yeah, you're right. Like one of the most genuine, heartwarming. I wouldn't go as far as say lovable, but just like a human scene with Logan is a scene when none of the kids are around, but they're in his postmortem, and they're just able to just like watch it vicariously through a video. It was adorable. It was sweet. Just again, seeing the smart direction. Just we see a lot of the video, but just the most of it is just the reaction to the kids. Seeing Kendall look at Connor. Roman start crying again. Shiv and Kendall put their backs on Roman. It was such a sweet scene. Again, this finale is filled with iconic scenes that I'll just never forget. The whole like meal fit for a king, Jonathan's cheese, like stuff like that. Like It was so hilarious. But then going to this scene where it's just so heartwarming and so emotional for all of the kids experiencing the reason that they're so connected to this business in the first place. It stems from their love of their father. Um, they say this when he's dying. You've done a lot of bad things to me, Dad. Each one of them in their own individual ways, but they kept saying it like, "You did a lot of bad things to me, Dad, but I love you." Like Shiv says it, Kendall says it, Roman says it. You did okay. I loved you. And this scene is them like it kind of justifying that for them. It's like he was a good father to us, regardless of him being a terrible father at the same time. He's allowed to be two things at the same time. He's allowed to be a bad guy. Mm-hmm. He's also allowed to be a good guy, and that's a great. To get that as our final experience with Roman for the audience
family
and for
moment.
The kids. Yeah. Like for the audience, like, we go 4 seasons with this asshole berating his kids verbally, physically, emotionally. And to end it with them watching a video of their father sing a song that they grew up listening to through their childhood, and then for them to relive that just as they're about to go into one of the biggest board meetings and one of the biggest moments of their lives, for Kendall for sure.
Yeah.
It's genius storytelling, and I love that scene. I was captivated so much by it.
Yeah. And as we wind things down, I just kind of wanted to talk about like, what do you envision of like
what's next?
These characters? Yeah, what's next for them? Because for me, like, I think Roman is gonna be fine. We already kind of discussed Shiv a little bit and her future with Tom basically becoming her own mother and maybe even resentful for kids in the future. But like for me, like but like for me, like the ending with Ken, it really does. It's not only tragic just because of seeing him lose, but like it really does feel almost like a demise, like almost like a death. I think even Jeremy Strong says it feels like a death for the character, because like I don't think he's gonna go on and like kill himself and throw himself out of a building or like drown himself. But like what I can see for Ken in the future, maybe he'll be fine. Maybe he'll start a company, as Jesse Armstrong said after the episode thing. But like for me, like knowing who Kendall was prior to the information that we get prior to season 1, like with his addiction, I can only see this going back to like drugs and basically killing himself, like not purposefully, but like overdose or something. Like I don't see him. I don't envision him like ever recovering from this. Like if anything, it's only gonna like make it worse for him.
I agree. I think when you're trying to think about what's next for Kendall, you have to go back to season 1, where it's like after he killed that kid, you could kind of think Kendall was in similar position. I think when Kendall killed that kid and he cried in his father's arms, I don't think he was thinking of like, well, one day I can rule the company, right? I think for Kendall, when he killed that kid and he's in Logan's arms, I think for him, he's thinking like, this is it for me. Like, I'm done. Like, this is the last thing I can do. I'm just going to be my father's shadow for the rest of my life. And that was his arc in season 2. He thought he was out of it. But then, there was always that, like, that chance, whatever. But yeah, so I think he's going to be in a similar position where he's like, I think he's out of it. But this one's more permanent. This one's definitely more permanent. And I think, Jesse, one of them said like he's going to be like silently screaming this entire rest of his life. He's like in that eternal scream, like within himself. And yeah, I think he's going to go mostly towards drugs. That's a good call. I think drugs, he's going to regress for sure. Drugs. Does he even go to his family? Does he find solace in his family at all? I don't think so. There's always that heartwarming scene at the end of season 1 where he's dancing with his kid at Shiv's wedding. Mm-hmm. Does he get even that kind of happy ending where he can just become a family person? I don't think so, because he hasn't been there for his kids for a long portion of his life. He kept saying, like, I'm doing this for my kids. I'm doing this for my kids. When that wasn't really the case. He was lying to himself, just like Logan was lying to himself, saying I was doing it for them, for my kids. It's like, no. Nobody was ever doing it for them kids. Yeah, he was never doing it for his kids, Logan or Kendall. They were doing it for themselves. So yeah, I don't know. I think he's gonna be aimless. He's gonna be aimless. Drugs. Maybe he can hang out with Roman. I don't know.
Stewie probably.
Stewie, Roman. Because Roman, at the end of the day, like Roman said yay, right? Like Roman supported him, but like Roman's never going to be that kind of like, hey, brother, what's up, brother? Like they're not like,
especially after
true.
what he said about his show.
Good point. Yeah. Again, I forgot about that again, but yeah, you can't really come back from that one. So yeah, and definitely not Shiv. So I don't know. Yeah, Kendall's definitely the most like up and down. You have no idea. You know, as a Kendall fan, I can hope that his kids, you know, he is a father. Maybe at the end of the day, maybe he'll have some brain blast through cocaine, where he's like, you know, I do have kids. I do have people related to me that could, you know.
He'll prepare them to fight Shiv's kids. Succession
exactly,
babies.
Right? Yeah.
Succession baby.
All grown up. It's like a Rugrats sequel. You never know. For Roman, yeah, Roman's easy. Roman's just like, I'm out, I'm drinking, and you know, maybe he chills at his mom's house, maybe he chills at Willa and Connor's house, you know, he's doing his normal shit. Shiv, man, holy shit. Like you said, she is cursed to become her mom. What she was told her whole life. Her whole life, she was told about this curse with women in the family, with her mom, and you know, just that experience. You know, even during the funerals episode, we got that whole like procession of the 4, you know, wives and people related to Logan. It's like, is Shiv going to be eventually one of those people when Tom dies or when whatever? It's like, is Shiv just relegated to that like unfortunate female role where she's just in it vicariously through Tom, through her kid, where there's no kind of strong emotional connection to anything anymore? She's never going to get what she truly desired. So Shiv is just, people talk about Kendall, like we talked a lot about Kendall, but Shiv's not in a great spot at all. Regardless, even though it was her decision, right? Like, yeah, she made a call for, and it goes back to like the pivotal moment in the finale. Like, why did she do it? We talked about it as well. It's like, it's mainly a reaction based off of her experience with Kendall as a sibling, but also just as like, you know, maybe she sees something in Tom. There's so many things. Like, we can go on forever about
also,
it.
she's gonna have a kid.
She's gonna have a kid.
Do something.
Exactly.
Eventually, when he grows up.
So, I think she falls in line, unfortunately, and we'll see what's left for her. Does she get a divorce from Tom? Doubt it. No.
Probably not.
Probably not. That's expensive as hell.
Now with the CEO being Tom, even more expensive.
Exactly. So yeah, it's just she lives an unfortunate cycle. Like Kendall, is there a happy ending in there for her? Maybe if her connection with Tom grows, which it definitely possibly could. You never know. It definitely has more upside than her and Kendall. So you never know. Tom's a selfish a-hole like everybody else is. But I think there could be love between him and Shiv. You never know. So there is upside, but there's also positioning wise, she's in a bad spot. She's in the bad spot.
I think what makes it even worse is the fact that Madsen is always going to be around, and he's never going to stop being around until he gets what he wants, which is Shiv. And once that happens, if it happens, maybe it'll stop. But
exactly. But yeah, overall, this is one of my favorite shows of all time. You know, HBO is fantastic. Like, you know, I'm listing off my favorite shows of all time outside of HBO in terms of like finales. Like The Americans for me is still probably one of my favorite finales of all time. The Americans and Avatar: The Last Airbender, perfect finales. But Better Call Saul, perfect finale. Rebels, Clone Wars, both had perfect finales. And then Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad. This is right up there. Leftovers for me. This is up there for best shows of all time, best finales of all time. Just this is such a personal, profound, powerful series that'll just never be forgotten by me. And it's endlessly rewatchable. I can't wait to rewatch this years down the line. Like some people are already rewatching it.
Yeah, it's gonna be painful to rewatch season 4, but like the journey getting there is gonna
season 4, because season 4 is just banger after bangers. Like, oh my god, every episode is so good. Yeah, this has been an incredible season of television.
Yeah. Well, with that out of the way, where can people find you, Evan?
Find me on Twitter, Harris EV9. Nathan and I on Nathan Rojas's channel. We are doing a lot of commentaries this summer. We just started Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark last night. So catch that on YouTube. Like and subscribe, please. But yeah, just follow me on Twitter because I'm doing commentaries of Indiana Jones. After that, we're going to be diving into Mission Impossible in the lead up to Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. And then later this year, we're going to be doing some Saw movies for Saw 10 coming out this year. So we have a lot of commentaries coming up. We're going to have a review of Across the Spider-Verse coming up next week as well. That comes out tomorrow, finally. And yeah, again, follow me, Harris EV9. I'm seeing Little Mermaid soon here. So I'll have a reaction to that tonight.
Yeah. And you can find me on all social medias, Instagram, Letterboxd, Twitter, all the good stuff at EDURTEG. You can find some of my work at the Cinema Spot and Loud and Clear Reviews. I'm going to start covering the Tribeca Film Festival soon in a couple of weeks, so look forward to that. And you can find this podcast at WHFG Podcast on Instagram and Twitter. We'll probably be back sometime maybe in the coming week to do our What We Watch in the months of May. I'm probably already planning what I'm going to watch in June. Probably going to force myself to rewatch the Transformers movies. So we'll see about it.
Oh, God. Good luck with that, buddy.
Yeah, I've got nothing else. So, I guess we can promote Josh even though he's not.
Yeah, Josh never showed up. But yeah, Josh D. Woodbury.
Josh
right?
D. Woodbury. Yeah, Instagram and Twitter, all that good stuff. He'll be back for the next one.
I think we're all in the description, right? In terms of our ads and everything. So, yeah.
Yeah, like and subscribe, as the kids say, and you can check this podcast on all the platforms that you can listen to podcasts on: Spotify, iTunes, all the good stuff. And yeah, we'll see you on the next one, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.